Please welcome the #1 movie star from around the world, Mr. Clint Eastwood. You have a really hard act to follow. You know that, 20th and plum. Clint Eastwood is now 95 years old. He knows he has fewer days left to live than he has already lived, and he has started to think about how the world will say goodbye to him. In private talks that people rarely hear, he has joked that his funeral will be short, cheap, and no crying allowed. But even when he's joking, Clint is serious about one thing. There are some people he hopes never show up to say goodbye. Why would someone as tough as Eastwood worry about who comes to his funeral? It has nothing to do with being scared and everything to do with what he believes in. Clint says a funeral should be for family and friends who lived life with him, not for people who talked big in the newspapers but never really understood me. Over the years, the actor has fought sometimes loudly, sometimes quietly with other famous people. Some fights were about politics, others about how to make movies on screen, and a few were much deeper, hurting matters of trust and feelings. On an list of the best Western movie stars, John Wayne and Clint Eastwood stand next to each other, but under their cowboy hats were very differentious about right, wrong, and what a hero should be like. Wayne, who was older bit 20 years, spent most of his time playing good guys who fought for what's right with a smile, a speech about doing good, and maybe a wink at the pretty teacher. His movie cowboys wore white hats, which meant they were the good guys, if not always for real. Eastwood's gunfighters that came in the 1960s were darker. They rode into town covered in dirt, spoke in short sentences, and sometimes shot the bad guy before anyone heard the name off town. Director Sergio Leone's A Fistful of Dollars showed movie watchers that a Western hero could be mysterious, selfish, even greedy, and still win. Wayne hated it. He felt this Espada Westerns put dirt over Theka Boy's clean boots. The fight got worse. In 1973, when Eastwood made High Plains Drifter, a spooky story about a stranger who paints a whole town blood red to punish hidden bad things, Wayne wrote a long letter that started with nice words about Clint's earlier movies, but ended in anger. He called High Plains Drifter twisted and said real American settlers would never act like Heath townspeople shown on screen. Eastwood, polite but stubborn, said back that history was more violent than Wayne wanted to admit and that movie scouts show that truth. An even bigger split happened when Clint sent Wayne a script for a movie he hoped to direct and act in with the Duke. Wayne said no without reading past page 10, saying, "This character feels an American." Clint put the rejection away, but never forgot how it hurt. Movie crew members later said that on the Outlaw Josie Wales set, Clint said, "Let's hoot this scene the way John Wayne would hate." Even with the tension, Eastwood kept a photo of Wayne on his office wall, a reminder of both inspiration and warning. He would type his hat to the Duke's bigger-than-life presence, but kept making darker, more complicated paths for his own heroes. When asked in the 1990s if he ever met Wayne again to fix things, Clint shook his head. "Different paths," he said. Wayne died in 1979, long before talk of Eastwood's final goodbye, but Clint has joked, if John rides in on a cloud, send him right back. He'll only lecture the preacher. It's a line half serious, half playful, but it shows how deep their split went, two legends standing on the same dusty street but facing forever in opposite directions. When Flags of Our Fathers and Letters from Iwo Jima hit movie theaters in 2006, movie critics praised Eastwood's twin look at a famous World War II battle from both American and Japanese eyes. 2 years later, director Spike Lee stood at the Cannes Film Festival and said Eastwood's films ignored Black Marinesso fought on those beaches. There were many African Americans there, Lee said. He leaves them out. Eastwood on another press tour shot back fast. A guy like that should shut his mouth. Here get that no black units took part in raising the flag on top of Mount Suribachi. Moment his film shows, reporters loved the fight. Two Oscar-winning directors trading punches about race and history. Lee replied, "I won't shut up." From then on, every time their paths almost crossed, award shows, charity events, publicists held their breath. Privately, Clint's friends say respects Spike's movie-making skills, but hates what he calls megaphone politics. Lee's camera often casts racial wounds. Eastwood's lens stares at individual strength. Clint believes war movies should honor facts first, not check every box of modern fairness. He once joked, "Next they'll ask me to add Martians." The real wound, in Sitter's whisper, wasn't the public fight. It wasly suggesting Eastwood didn't care about black veterans. Clint's Navy years taught him all sailors bleed the same, and he has hired diverse casts from Bird about jazz legend Charlie Parker to Invictus about Nelson Mandela. Bankled insensitive hurt deeper than critics knew. Would Clint block Spike Lee from the seats? He'd likely say, let them watch on streaming. The last thing Eastwood wants at a serious goodbye is a new headline reading, Lee vs. Eastwood final round. A funeral in his should close the curtain, not open a debate club. Spike might mean well be showing up, but Clint's family knows his presence would pull cameras and questions. Clint would prefer silence to sound bites. So, if Lee ever feels he needs to honor the man he fought with, he may have to choose another stage. Maybe a screening of Grand Torino Brooklyn's BAM, where spirited talk is welcome and Eastwood's ghost can rest far from the flashbulbs. When Clint Eastwood cast Leonardo DiCaprio as J. Edgar Hoover, some insiders were shocked. Here was a star of tough old Hollywood teaming up with the prince of modern fancy pictures. On set, Clint admired Leo's focus. He knew Page's lines, hit his marks, and called Eastwood sir. But off-set, their world hardly overlapped. Leo flew from award shows to climate rallies, speaking about melting ice caps while cameras flashed. Clint, who once talked to an empty chair at a political convention, rolled his eyes at what he saw as lecture tours. Eastwood grew up when actors rarely talked politics in public. DiCaprio belongs to a time where Instagram, red carpet speeches, and documentaries about polar bears blend into the job. Staff remember Clint growling when Leo's team asked to offset movie's carbon footprint by planting trees. That felt like Hollywood nonsense to a man who still drives himself to work at dawn. DiCaprio's habit of renting private jets for quick trips especially annoyed Eastwood. Don't preach about saving nature if you burn more fuel than a firefighting plane, he reportedly muttered. During press fourth movie J. Edgar, a journalist asked Clint about climate change. The director pointed to Leo, chuckled, and said, ask the young guy. He's got charts. Theron laughed, but the coldness between Themen was obvious. Clint hates what Lear presents. A new Hollywood that broadcasts its causes, poses for selfies, and trades cowboy boots for vegan sneakers. Eastwood once said, in me day, you saved the planet by not littering the river, not by tweeting Gabbitt. To him, real change is quiet and steady. So, when Eastwood imagines his own service, he pictures silent C-sept for slow guitar music. No spotlight, no global warming slideshow. Spotlight, no global warming slideshow. If DiCaprio arrived wearing a suit made from recycled water bottles, Clint would probably grin, tip his hat, and hope someone guides Leo gently back to the limo. Good kid, he might say later, but he'd be happier planting trees than listening to my old war stories. Michael Moore burst into fame holding a camera like a slingshot aimed at authority. Roger and Me, Bowling for Columban, Fahrenheit 9/11. Each film pokes the powerful. To Clint Eastwood, who once lectured an invisible president at the 2012 Republican convention, Moore's style feels like ambush, no target. Their Cold War of words began in 2005 when American Sniper hit development rumors. Moore tweeted that his uncle was killed by a sniper in World War II and called snipers cowards. Eastwood read it and got mad. At an awardsner, he barked that if Moore ever shows up with a camera, I'll kill him. The room laughed. Clint claimed later it was just cowboy talk, but Moore never shy replied, Clint make my day. Two stubborn storites both claiming patriotism, pointing their cameras in opposite directions. Eastwood honors sacrifice, believes a rifle can defend freedom, and trusts viewers to weigh gray areas quietly. Moore spotlights corporation skins and government secrets, urging crowds to shout. Their visions of America collide like trains at a switchyard. When American Sniper finally opened in 2014, it made hundreds of millions. Moore criticized it again. Clint ignored him publicly, but muttered on set, some people profit by stirring pot, not by panning for gold. Friends say Eastwood's biggest fear at his funeral is turning the day into a circus. Moore's camera in hand equals circus. News crews would swarm, hungry for a new Eastwood Moore quote, even from the casket. Clint prefers a flag over the coffin. Taps in the distance, then everyone home for stew and queet whiskey. If Moore stays away, Clint's story ends as he wishes. Soldier sued Goodby. No protest signs. Should Moore appear, the family might guide him aside, thanking him for interest, politely refusing an interview. Meanwhile, Clint's old line will echo down the aisle. Go ahead, make my day somewhere else. Tom Hanks may be loved by nearly everyone, but Clint Eastwood is not nearly everyone. When they teamed up for Sully, the story of pilot Chesley Sullenberger landing a damaged jet on the Hudson River, crew members saw two very different working styles collide. Eastwood, famous for saying, "That sprint after 1 or 2 takes, on Sayrapt," a complex scene before Thekify turned cold. Hanks, who studies every comma, prefers extra runs to polish emotion. He sometimes asked for another take only to hear Clint softly growl, "Why? We already got it." Their politics also stand apart. Hanks campaigns for voting access, hugs talk show hosts, and delivers tear-filled acceptance speeches. Eastwood, libertarian and blunt, thinks speeches hold be short and tears should stay personal. On set, Clint joked when Hanks suggested adding a line about teamwork. "What are we, a baseball movie?" The words were light, but the undercurrent was clear. Clint's films echo solitarioism, not group hugs. After Sully wrapped, Hanks praised Eastwood's and like calm. Clint thanked him, but later told a buddy that Tom's apple peach arm belongs at Disneyland, not necessarily in the real muddy world. Eastwood respects soldiers and first responders far more than celebrity ads. When Hanks narrated a TV special about uniting America, Clint turned it awful way, saying, "Hope they served pie at halftime." Why would Clint leave Hanks off a funeral guest list? Not from spite, but from taste. He imagines the actor might try to comfort the crowd with a gentle story about hope, faith, or a ball of string. Clint prefers nostalgia at all, just a folded flag. Maybe the sound of wind in Monterey cypress trees. One of Eastwood's oldest friends summed it up. Tom is sunshine. Clint is granite. Sunshine brightens the day, but granite keeps the mountain steady. At last roundup, Clint picks stone over glow. If Hanks arrives anyway, the family will greet him politely. Yet those who knew Clint will feel the contrast. The handshake to soft, the Jesuit to neat, the words to sweet. Anzamure beyond the clouds, the old gunslinger might whisper, "Tell him thanks, but next time bring dirt under the fingernails." For 14 years, Sondra Locke was more than Eastwood's leading lady. She was his companion, muse, and Sametim's rival. They met on the outlaw Josie Wales set in 1975. Locke's sharp wit and intense eyes drew Clint in. Soon they were sharing a Carmel home furnished with guitars, typewriters, and the scent of ocean pines. Together, they made 6 movies from The Gauntlet to Sudden Impact. On screen, they traded quips. Off-screen, they built routines. Supper at 6 o'clock. Script talk at 8, jazzer chords by 11. Yet cracks formed. Locke wanted roles beyond the tough girl stereotype. Eastwood kept writing low-wand gun tales. She pressed him to produce directing projects. He promised, then stalled. By the late 80s, their bond thinned like worn denim. One evening, Locke returned from a shoot to find locks changed on the Carmel house and boxes left on the porch. The headline wrote itself, "Eastwood locks out Locke." The breakup spiraled into court. Locke sued for palimony, claiming Eastwood sabotaged her career. Clint settled, setting up a development deal at Warner Brothers. But when every script Shepich died in studio limbo, she filed a fraud suit, saying Clint and the studio only pretended to back her. The legal war dragged through the 90s, soaking tabloids in bitterness. Behind locked doors, Clint began to admit things he would never say to a reporter. "It's nothing but rounds of arguing." No, he grumbled to an old stunt buddy, "All fight, no friendship." We walk into a room and the air turns to smoke. Sondra was just as blunt on her side off town. She told a makeup artist that Clint handled romance like he handled eating. If a kiss slows the picture, heck, it's the kiss. She joked, half smiling, half crying. The line spread through backlit trailers. Eastwood, master oft razor blade, trimming real-life to match his movie rhythm. Years passed, phone calls stopped. Court papers piled up like winter snow outside their lawyers' doors. Then in 2018, word slipped out that Sondra Locke had died of cancer. She was 74, alone, except for a few close friends. Some crew members expected Clint to send white roses, maybe a short note that read, "Thanks for the memories." Hollywood flower shops waited for the order. It never came. No card, no tweet, no whispered condolence, silence. Why would a mank noun for quiet dignity choose silence? No. Because the cut never healed. Locke was more than an ex-girlfriend. She was the living reminder of how Eastwood's steel-hard need for control, so useful when steering a camera crew, could bruise a heart he once swore to protect. Inviting Gavin Locke's memory to his own funeral, he feels, would reopen a wound that timely Scabbed, never sealed. A service in his mind should comfort the living, not drag ghosts into the aisle. Imagine Thecapel on that windy Carmel bluff. If an officiant suddenly said, "We also honor the late Sondra Locke," the older grips in the back. Roe might sigh. They would picture the two lovers under studio rain machines sharing screen kisses that sold buckets of popcorn. Someone might whisper, "Remember the dessert scene when she slipped on Theshale and he caught her?" Those sweet recollections could just as quickly tilt toward talk of lawsuits, lockouts, and heartbreak. The room would rustle not with hymn pages, but with acquired curiosity. That is the ripple Clint wants to avoid. Instead, he hopes the people gathered will pull up gentler frames. Sondra's laugh bouncing off Red Canyon walls during a location scout, her proud grin the first time she drove a stunt car faster than the men. Queet evening she proved she could outshoot the wranglers on set. Those flashes tucked inside private minds need no microphone and no legal brief. They can live where they belong in memory, not in public record. When the final reel off Clint Eastwood's life flickers toward black, he wants the fade out clean. No footnotes, no subpoenas, no sudden cameo from a chapter dressed in pain. If PC is the last word he earns, he would rather keep it whole than trade it for headlines, stamped with an old courtroom date so the program will skip over that name, leaving space as blank as silence in an old film reel. A gap filled by memories each mourner will handle imprivate as the credits roll on one of Hollywood's longest, hardest, and most unforgettable love stories.